as a designer, working with these girls, we took an architectural drawing that was designing an outdoor space for swimming. It was just a perfect, really great, very nice architectural drawing and design. And then we give it to the girls and ask them to do what they want. And this space looked completely different.
Thank you so much for listening to Urbanistica podcast. I am Mustafa Sharif, an urban planner, and you're more than welcome to join my big journey of exploring the making of smarter and more livable cities. Don't forget to follow Instagram account to see the stories behind the scenes, and also subscribe the YouTube channel to see the live talks. Let's get in touch on LinkedIn, share your reflections with us, with Urbanistica community. Recommend the podcast to people you think are interested in Urbanistica topics. Are you ready for a new episode? Let's go for it. Today we're going to talk about super interesting project. We're going to talk about Fairshare certification system. It's a great story, great project, and I have a great guest. I would love to welcome Vesna Vasiljkovic to Urbanistica podcast. Hey, and welcome.
Thank you, Mustafa. Nice to be here.
So, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Thank you.
Thank you so much also for coming all the way up to Stockholm.
Thank you.
So, you are our storyteller. How would you like to introduce yourself, and please tell us what are you passionate about?
My name is Vesna Vasiljkovic, and I'm an architect and urban planner by my education. But as more as I'm growing up, as more as I work, I realize that I'm becoming more a specialist into being a generalist, as I see myself. And I'm very passionate about breaking a new ground. It sounds maybe strange, but that's really my biggest passion, to break a new ground, not alone, but together with many other disciplines and people. I love coordinating those processes and finding solutions for futures together with others. These days, I work at Tengbom Architects here in Sweden as office manager since 3 years ago. But before that, I used to work within the municipality of Lund as a project leader. And I find it quite interesting being just in the middle between those two different kinds of organizations, the public and the private. They have completely different drive forces. They have different tasks to solve. They have a different way of doing it. And being employed by both of those two worlds, nowadays I operate pretty much in between them. And I love that.
Yeah, very interesting journey. So breaking ground to find a common ground. When did this passion start?
I don't know. Sometimes I think when I was a child that it started back then. I grew up in a family where my parents always somehow taught me that everything is possible and that you can think in another way. So I think it started there, trying to think in another way. And then it continued through my life experience always. I was in different positions in my life where I was a bit an outsider trying to come in. So I have this pretty much strong inside within myself, trying to connect different worlds coming together and making this common ground.
Yeah, I can imagine. Is it difficult to bring people together to agree on one thing?
I actually don't think that. No, I don't think so. I think it's always about being open, being direct, being honest to yourself and to others. And then you find a solution. You negotiate, you try to realize together, you try to find win-win concepts.
Yeah.
I just love that.
Yeah. And I can see how your face reaction, you're smiling and you're really passionate about this.
Yeah.
So your life is a lot about communication, right?
My life is a lot about communication. Yes.
Yeah. So let's start to talk about the core of this episode, Fairshare certification system. Tell me about the background.
It somehow it becomes big right now. Some years ago, I started to feel a huge frustration about all the cities developing themselves in a certain way and sometimes leaving people back. So I wrote a bit about this and I started to think, how could we find methods and processes involving people stronger and doing something in a certain city, giving things back to the local communities. So instead of working top down, how could we work more ground up? So together with the municipality of Helsingborg, we started an experimental project, hashtag Where Are the Girls, where we worked with 15 teenagers, 15 girls going in 8th grade. So we just basically asked them, what do you want to see in Helsingborg? Choose 3 places to work with and tell us what do you want to see there. And this was a big process, many workshops, many thoughts, many tears, many discussions, many visions, many drawings, whatever. And then we realized, we adults in the projects, it was a huge insight that what we are designing, what we are doing, is actually not responding to what these girls, just these 15 girls, want to see in Helsingborg. And at the end of that project, we designed a toolbox, which is nothing like, it's not a research project, it's nothing, we don't know if it's true, but just like observations from these projects. And we concluded like this: if you want to work with equal places in the city, maybe you could try to do this, 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 and this. It was some kind of toolbox. And after that, in discussions together with the municipality of Helsingborg, which is great, I need to say, they are really working innovative and trying to test things. An idea came up that maybe we should stamp all the projects that Helsingborg works with this toolbox. And then it just started to be bigger. Then we realized maybe we should start a certification system. But we became afraid, should we, who are we? Should we do a certification system? Is there some in the world? We couldn't find any. We couldn't find any methods that really worked with these issues. So we contacted RISE, the Swedish Research Institute, state-owned, and we contacted Raoul Wallenberg Institute in Lund, in a city in the southern part of Sweden. It's a human rights institute, and together with them and 2 municipalities more, it's not just Helsingborg, it's also Umeå, a city in the northern part of Sweden, and Ängelholm, applied for some finance, and we got this financing. So we started the project.
Nice, congratulations.
Thank you.
So first you started just by doing a small project, like a pilot, to see if your theory is working or not.
Exactly.
And then you decided, okay, we should go big and creating a certification system.
Exactly. And because what we realized is that these experiments happens sometimes in some cities, but often in a very small scale, often very temporary ones. This kind of thinking and experimenting is not present in a huge urban project. The mainstream, the big projects. And these kind of projects are often driven by people that are very engaged. So what we realized is there is not a systematic thinking. There is not one method, or there is nothing that can help municipalities to be more specific around how to work with the quality issues in a city. The visions are big. In master planning and everything, they say we want to be to build the cities for everyone, and the intentions are good, but still we are still designing and building cities that are not for all. So we became very frustrated and said, let's help let's help the municipalities. Let's find out if we can do something that is more specific, that turns these processes into more equal ones.
Yeah, and it's also due to the long process, urban planning process. So there is a lot of lost in the way, from the vision, clear vision, then to the real ground. Then you lose a lot of ambition. So this certification system can be really useful. So if I ask you, if you describe this certification system, what will this help with?
We are still in the middle of the process, but what we are thinking right now is that can help if a certain municipality or a project or a team decides on being a certificated. It can help you to structure these issues. It will put a criteria that you need to have this kind of competence in your team. Someone that can think norm creatively, that can understand the norms and dynamics around it and how it influences people in a city. So one thing is you need to have a competence. The other thing, you need to do equality analysis. You need to get help from people that know this. And doing an analysis, you need to have some conclusions, specific conclusions. And then after those conclusions, you need to have priorities. Okay, we are focusing in this project on these two equality issues, but we need to take them all the way down. And making that priority, then you need to find solutions, and not just by yourself, by your team within the municipality or whatever, but you need to include citizens in a different way. You need to know, you need to have a clear idea who you want to involve in order to solve this task, why, and you need to do it in the way that it's not just like, look, I did this, what do you think? And then you take some feedback. You need to include them as completely equal stakeholder to you. And then you need to show the concrete solutions, even though they're not perfect, but you need to somehow explain how they are born from this idea or priorities that you did. And then if you cannot solve some things, you need to send a letter to the next phase. So, for example, if you enter this certification system while working on detail planning, maybe you cannot solve everything, but you can solve some things. You can add some things that you can add in this phase, and then you send a letter to the next phase.
Okay, so they can continue working on it.
They can continue working. So we are working a lot with this red line. How could you really, from a vision, do something specific? And it's okay to fail. It's okay to reflect on that you failed, but you need to show that you tried.
Exactly. It's okay to fail and learn.
Exactly. So we work a lot with this trial and error.
Yeah.
And try to put it somehow in a certification system. But this is not easy. We are struggling, and we don't know if we will have a good result.
I think this is the beauty with working with urban planning, that you don't know how is it going to be. You need to experiment with the people, which just makes it awesome, because then you can find the magic, and maybe then you find not the perfect, but the model that works actually. So if I go back, you mentioned in the beginning you tested with girls as a target group, but is this certification system only targeting young girls as a group, or it's about every single person in the city?
It's every single person. No, this was just a small experiment, talking just with the girls in that specific situation. But the certification system is about equality. And of course, one can ask, what is equality? Equality for you, equality for me, what is that? So we are trying to find right now in the project the catchy vision or a simple vision for this. But what I can say is that it's grounded in Agenda 2030. in the goal 5 and 10. It's also grounded in Swedish law, PBL, Plan and Big Building Act. It's also grounded in discrimination grounds, and having Raoul Wallenberg Institute, Human Rights Institute, with us on board, we would also like to integrate human rights thinking into this certification system. So it's a bit complex. It's for all, but what does it actually mean? So we are trying to define that, but it's grounded in all this that I said.
And also talking about involving people during all the process, all the story, not only when you're done with the master plan and ask them, but this might take a lot of time, making the process even longer and cost a lot of money. How can we think? Some municipalities maybe don't have so much money to create so many workshops, to invite so many people. So what is the logic behind it? How can we do it and not spending so much of the budget and time?
One interest or one thought that is pretty strong in this project that we as a team working in this really want to achieve. We want to show that it doesn't cost more working with these issues. But still, it's a bit scary. I'm not sure that we will reach all the way to this goal. It shouldn't cost more. You should just change the way you work. And today, with all these digital methods and possibilities, there are so many ways of doing dialogues, interactions. Maybe municipalities don't have to do everything. Maybe they can let others do some things. It's about leadership. It's about how you lead developing your city. It's not having control all the way through all the phases. So there is something interesting there to reach. But the intention is to show, no, it doesn't cost more. Yeah. It shouldn't cost more. You should just change yourself.
Yeah. So it's all about changing the mindset and become a bit smarter in the way you involve people, you plan, maybe not 100% control.
Exactly. Maybe let it out, but be a leader.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I think nowadays many municipalities are working toward this, I would say, creative bureaucracy, like a bit more involving people, less control. So what is the time frame for this project?
We started a year ago or something, and our plan is to be finished in June next year. What does it mean to be finished? We will have a draft for the certification system, but after that we need somehow, what I learned in this project is someone needs to own the certification system and to develop it through time and sell it. It's a market thing. We still don't know who that will be, if that's the state or some coalition or I don't know. So we the goal is to have a draft in June next year, but then you need somehow maybe to adjust it a bit.
Yeah. And how many people are you in the team?
In a core team, a core team, I mean the ones that are regularly discussing these issues on a weekly basis. 2 from RISE, 1 from Raoul Wallenberg Institute, me from Tengbom, and we have 2 from 6 people. But then we have, when we have workshops, we involve much more people, sometimes guests that just come and enter the discussion without having any background. So one of the methods is also to test some statements. Yeah. While working to test if this works with many more people than just us. And soon we will have a very rough draft of this, and then we have these 3 municipalities that have their cases, and we are going to prototype to test if this draft works, what works, what doesn't work, what we need to change.
Well, I wish you all the good luck.
Thank you.
So you mentioned that you couldn't find a system or a certification system within the same topic internationally.
We actually couldn't. I would like if someone is listening to this and knows about some other certification, please contact me, but we couldn't find any. There are a lot of certification systems dealing with sustainability, which this is one part of, but it doesn't go deep down into this kind of issues, and it doesn't actually give you help on the way, which is our goal. We shouldn't just like certificate you and control you. We are doing that, but we are also helping you to be more specific. So it's a bit of innovation, I think. Yeah. I never thought in my life that I would work with certification system. I never thought about that, but I love it. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's really cool to work with such interesting project. And I imagine, so if I understand you correctly, so this certification system is not only about giving you a grade in the end of the project. No, it's a kind of checklist going through all the story, right?
It's more of a storytelling and showing that you are testing in a specific way. Yeah. And that things are happening in the city from what you have been working on. And then if it's right or wrong, we don't know, but it should happen something different in the cities.
Yeah. You as an architect working with design and making our cities beautiful. So how do you describe equality and inclusion in a city? How do we do it?
How do we do it? We can do it in so many different ways, in so many different scales and instances. It's not easy to just say you do it like this. But as a designer, working with these girls, I want to explain this. We took an architectural drawing that was designing an outdoor space for swimming out in the sea in a certain city in Sweden. We don't have to explain which one. It was just a perfect, really great, very nice architecture drawing and design. And then we give it to the girls and ask them to do what they want. And this space looked completely different.
Wow.
So as the architectural drawing was, it was pretty squaric and straight lines. And the girls changed it into a completely organic one. Much more round lines. As the architectural drawing showed, it was pretty much grayish, but the girls introduced a lot of color. As it was on the architectural drawing, it was like it was floating in the sea, this platform, a nice one, with one bridge. But as the girls explained to us, if I'm staying on this bridge and the gang is coming towards me and I'm afraid, I don't have anyone to run except to jump into the sea. So it suddenly became, instead of one bridge, there were 2 or 3 bridges, and they were much wider, so you could escape if you're afraid. What girls told us, some of them had hijab, and if I want to be with my friends, but I don't want to swim, it's so sunny here, because the architects started from a Swedish norm that we all want sun. We all want just to, but they don't want, they need some shadow. So suddenly there became a lot of shadows, so design can be changed. The processes could be changed. You could involve more people telling you what to do. Sometimes we are sitting in our positions and believe that we know what others want, but we don't know. Ask. Be curious.
Yeah, I understand what you mean. And does it mean that architects need to relearn human architecture? I mean, why is this happening? Because we just maybe missed it during the university, that we didn't learn so much about this kind of thinking, or what's the issue that we end up like this? We are not thinking about really what people need. I'm not mentioning all the architects, of course, but I mean some particular projects.
I think that architects have always thought about people, but I think that our context has changed a lot. It's much more complex right now. maybe people said it through all the history. Right now, it's pretty much complex, but it is complex. It's different, so we need to deal it in a different issues. So our methods, our thinking, our way of working need to be changed. Sometimes I teach at the University of Lund, and last year I was there explaining this project. I was a part of a discussion there, talking about equality in urban planning and architecture. 5 or 6 girls came to me afterwards and said, "This is nothing we learn here. This is so interesting. Why don't we?" And what they experience as well is that this kind of issues, they don't have status. That's what they told me. You always get a better status if you design you have a nice form, nice concept. That's what architecture is about. But integrated this social thinking, it's like no one asks you to do that. It's just not status in it somehow, which is sad if it's like that. So it's both. Of course, we think as architects about people, but sometimes we should ask how deep we are going there. How deep we are actually trying to take in others' perspectives. We started a housing project in Tengbom now, and said in the beginning of the project we are going to test how gender equality could influence housing. That was just an intention, just a question, and we found some specific things that we could test. We don't know if it's correct or not. I think we need to be curious, not to do as we always have done, not paste and copy, even if effectiveness is, of course, important in our work. We maybe need to put some question and try to solve it every time. Yeah. And we become better architects.
Yeah. And how are you doing it now in your office? Because you're a studio manager.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have it as a, policy, or do you talk a lot about this? Okay, include these questions in everyday design.
We had some months ago, we had a workshop working with our business plan for the next year. And we decided on turning the whole office into working in this way. We are not there yet, but we want this. So we have 2 or 3 projects that are strongly working with this kind of methods and thinking. But the idea is that all the projects that we have needs to be in this way. It's not always easy because some clients don't want to pay for this, and we cannot just do things without getting paid. That's the. But there are actually clients that want. If you find. So there are some challenges, but that's the goal for us.
Yeah, and as you know, in Urbanistica podcast, we talk a lot about smart city. How can we be smarter and create more livable cities? If I ask you, how can we make public spaces smarter?
I think we should work more with people. I think we should feel more responsibility for this kind of space, because that's the space in a city that we own together. That's the definition of public. We own that together and we use it together. So I think that that involvement is a great thing to do while designing public space, and we should take care of it somehow. Involving people and maybe making it more flexible somehow, not negotiating about it, it should be people's somehow, whatever it means.
Yeah, involving people and making them part of the story. If you sit in a smart machine and go back in time, and you are allowed to change one thing in our cities in the past, what will you change?
I don't know. It says maybe more about me as a person. I never go back and think, oh, I should have done this different. I try to see what went wrong eventually and try to change it and learn from that. So maybe the decisions were right at the time, but I think if we go further, if we look into our future, so I think what we could change there is to somehow put a higher pressure on the leadership that lead the development of our cities. It should be more innovative. It should be more creative. It should be more trial and error. It should be more close to people. I would like to change that. There are so much bureaucracy out there, and fear of making wrong things.
Yeah. And do you think in the future, let's say in 2050, when people look back at this certification system, do you think they will say we need stronger leadership, innovative, or they will say, oh, that was a great method, certification system? What is in your mind?
In the future, maybe some people that would analyze this method would say it did well at that time. It pushed the development forward. I even sometimes think that maybe the system would be great in 5 years, but then we don't need it anymore because we have learned that. I don't know, but I think that it's the right thing to do right now.
Yeah. And if you are allowed to add one thing to all the cities, apart from creating a certification system, what will you add to our cities? Can be a policy, a design, maybe a furniture.
I think I would add free zones, like white empty zones where people can come and do whatever, like a bit activistic zones.
Unprogrammed,
exactly. We want to have control on everything, but maybe we should just have some zones or something else.
Yeah, this is actually what I do now when I plan. So when we give the different zones, there is a programmed zone called unprogrammed, and some people think it's a joke or something, you know. So, Vesna, which city is your favorite city as an architect?
I love Berlin. Me and my husband went there on a wedding trip, so maybe that's why. But I think it has a lot of history. It connects east and west. It's a bit rough. A lot of culture, a lot of alternative culture. A lot of design, a lot of creativity, and I like how the city works with densification right now, exactly at those spots where the wall was. A lot of symbolic statement, rich urban planning. I love that.
Yeah.
I love Berlin.
Yeah, Berlin's very beautiful. Okay, now I'm more curious. What is your favorite public space and building?
And book and musician.
But then we need to create the whole season. Just
yeah, exactly. 2 years ago, I went to Andalusia together with my family, and we went to Granada, Alhambra. Maybe you didn't expect that I would pick that one. At all. I sometimes nowadays when I work with some projects at the office, I think about Alhambra, which was built at the end of 13th century and in the beginning of 14th century, while Arabic Empire was there in Spain, and many different cultures lived together, Jews and Muslims and Christian, with a high tolerance and a lot of creativity. That's the period where Alhambra was designed. And I love how this building or complex is working with outdoor and indoor and detailing and shadow and light. A lot of feelings while walking through these spaces. Nowadays, as our architecture is, at least in Sweden, a lot of buildings need to be very effective and standardized. And so I always go back to Alhambra and think how to do it a bit different. I love that one.
Very interesting.
And public space, I have two. I think I have Highline in New York. I have just been there once, so I don't know how it is during nights or evenings. Maybe there are a lot of problems there. But what I like about Highline is that taking an old infrastructure, and giving it to people, making it into public space full of life. It's symbolic to me. I like that. I also like that it's a line. It's it's not on the ground. It's a bit higher up, so you feel as a citizen very appreciated. You feel important. And what I like is that it's run and maintained and programmed by friends of Highline. So it's owned by the state of New York, the city of New York, but this friends of Highline maintain and run and program. So again, what I like, giving it to people somehow. That's why I like that.
Yeah, very beautiful and very inspiring answers. You took us to different cities. That's amazing. Thank you so much again for this inspiring conversation, and I'm really thankful that you're here and did the podcast.
Thank you, Mr. Nice being here.
Thank you. So how would you like to summarize what we talked about, your reflections, and 3 takeaway messages to all the listeners?
One message would be that work with trial and error. Don't be afraid of making mistakes. That's one. The second one is while working, whatever you work on, try to exit your own norm. Try to think how other people can see on this place or project or wherever you're working. Try to ask them. And third is, we are always telling on different conferences and so on, like, oh, this is so complex nowadays, and digitalization and urbanization and segregation. And yeah, it is like that. Try to be the solver. Try to make it happen. Try to find solutions.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mustafa.
Vesna, are you good in hashtags?
No, I'm not.
Well, because now I need 3 hashtags from you to the episode.
Okay, can we prototype this together?
Yes, let's try.
We should have like architecture, urban planning, innovation. I don't know.
Okay, 3 hashtags. Let's do it. First one, hashtag. You go first.
I go first. Hashtag equality.
Yes. For me, hashtag cities for people. And the third one?
Architecture.
Okay. Well, greetings to all the architects. I have nothing. As you see, I'm interviewing an architect as well.
Exactly.
Yes, great. So what is the next step for you now?
Finishing the certification system and feeling that we have something. I have many thoughts, but I want to influence more.
Yes.
That's the drive force.
Yeah, and I'm really happy that you give your valuable time to record the podcast and to influence more people.
Thank you, Mustafa.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for listening to Urbanistica podcast season number 2. I hope you enjoyed the episode, learned something new, and got inspired by the guest. And also, please don't forget to share the episode with your friends, colleagues, and people you think they are interested in Urbanistica topic. Follow on Instagram account. You will see the stories behind the scenes before and after every episode we record in the podcast. And also don't forget to subscribe the YouTube channel to see the live talks and also to see the vlogs. If you have any feedback or you want to suggest a new topic or nominate a new guest, you can just reach out and write me. You can find me everywhere: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and also my email. So feel free to write me and share your thoughts with me. Thank you so much again for listening. I am Mustafa Sharif. Keep up the good work. Keep loving cities.